All right, again, y'all ready for our speaker? All right, again, when she got here, I thought it was going to be trouble. I never thought in my wildest dreams that she was going to become the leader that she's become. And, you know, just watching what God has done, transform her life, God restoring her, creating a heart for God like nobody's business. She's so teachable. She's a leader. God is restoring her family. She's gotten her kids back. I mean, all those things that you just love to hear. I mean, this is why I do recovery ministry, because I love seeing this take place. So if y'all would get on your feet, help me to welcome Batchelor.
Being here tonight, that you know, this is my favorite place to be every Tuesday night, not only when I get to share my story, but every Tuesday. I'm gonna start off with prayer because I'm a bit nervous, but okay. So God, I'm so grateful to be here tonight. We're just grateful to be in your house, Lord. Just to calm my nerves, Lord, and just work through me and touch hearts that need to be touched. And we love you so much, and continue to lead, guide, direct us in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. All right. See, my name is Megan. I moved to Warner Robins August 12th, 2024. I'm gonna get more into that in a minute. I'm gonna start off a little bit different this time. So I'll be 36 in August. I have two little boys. I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old. We're from Eatonton, Georgia, which is really close to Millersville, if you know where that's at. I grew up there my whole life. I had grandparents there that, you know, they were the praying grandparents. You know, I wish I could say I learned that from my life, or learned that from them. But so I had a really good childhood with my dad and my stepmom so about age 5. You know, I lived with my dad, me and my little brother. My mom ran off before I got old enough to even say the word mom, I'm pretty sure. So. But my dad was he was a good man. He was hardworking, he was strong. You know, he was very stubborn, and I think I got a lot of that from him. But, so he raised us until we were about 5, until I was about 5. My little brother was about 1, and then we got my stepmom. I wish I could say that she was the best thing that happened to me, but I was rough on her. You know, I really didn't understand it, and I didn't want to share my dad. So that turned into a whole thing, actually, until I was 34. So it's been so it's been a whole lifetime of crazy. But we lived in Eatonton, like I said, and my dad worked and took care of us. I had a good life. I played soccer, I played sports. My dad showed up for me. That was our thing. I was definitely hard on stepmom. She wanted me to be a prince, like a girl. She wanted me to wear bows and go to cotillion, and I was just not. I got kicked out of cotillion the first time. They would never let me go back, and she hated that. You know, I was just hard. You know, so about 13 though, I had scholarships at age 13 to play soccer. I played travel soccer. I had all the coaches. I had all the things. You know, my dad really put his time into it. We would get up before he went to work every day and just put the time into playing soccer. So at 13 though, my mom started coming back around, and of course I was a hard-headed teenage girl, and I was angry with my stepmother. So I went off to I broke my daddy's heart, and I went off to live with my mom. It took me about 3 days, I guess, to realize that was probably the worst mistake I had ever made. A lot of pride, a lot of, I wasn't going back. My dad said when I left that I'd be pregnant by 16, or dead. It wouldn't be good, you know, and he was right. I did wait a little longer than 16 to get pregnant, thank God, but he was right about the rest of it. My mom, she lived in like a 2-bedroom trailer. And I was used to a really sheltered life. Like my daddy and my stepmom didn't cuss, they didn't fight, they did not. They yell at us, of course, because we were horrible. But they disciplined us the right way as parents should. They took us to church. My mom lived with her mother, my nanny. My nanny was 500 pounds, and she was just so overweight, so out of just horrible. And when I moved in with them, I realized how bad, at 13, how bad my grandma was getting mistreated. Like, nobody would help her bathe, nobody would feed her. They would call her names, you know, and I had a good heart. I've always had a good heart. I've always had a big heart, you know, and so I decided I was gonna stay. I was gonna stick it out. One weekend, I seen my mama get her head just bashed in from a boyfriend at the time. That was probably the most craziest thing I had ever seen at that time in my life. I still remember it very vividly. You know, I will never forget that. I remember hiding under the table thinking, what have I done? I done moved in over here to this crazy place, you know. Wasn't too long after I moved in with her, I done dropped out of school. Of course, she signed me out like it wasn't nothing. I dropped out of school. I then started smoking cigarettes and smoking weed, and I gave up soccer just like that. She was never really what you would say, like, she never got on me for anything. You know, I went from very structured to very free. And at 13, you don't need free, you need structure. And so, you know, after the numerous boyfriends, the numerous of the crazy all the time, there's always some police in and out, just drugs, alcohol. She was the first person to introduce me at age 13 to methamphetamines. Because I was dealing with all the sadness and the trauma that was going on around me, you know, I locked onto it. I latched on, and there was no turning back from that moment until later on in my life. She was the first person to ever do pills with me. She never smoked weed with me. She said that was a drug, you know, I just never understood that. She did all the hard stuff, you know, and so doing meth, you know, eventually she realized that I was young. The guys that she had around, you know, liked me. They wanted to see me instead of her. So in order for her to get high, that's what she did. That's what she did. She turned me out. She dolled me up, put some makeup on me, some short shorts, and sent me on my way to make sure that she and I had drugs, you know, and I did it because I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to be okay. I wanted her not to be beat up. I wanted her, you know, just to be my mama. And man, did I know nothing at that time in my life. But so I did that. I made the guys happy for her. I learned at a very young age how to manipulate, to lie, steal, cheat, to say whatever you needed to hear to get whatever I wanted. So by 16, I was full-blown addict. I was running the streets, never at home. I figured out I could start making my own money. Really didn't need her to get high any longer. So that's where me and her started butting heads, because she would say, you know, I need to go do this. And I'm like, nah, I got something else going on, you know. So even then, you know, I did have a praying grandma. She tried. She seen what was going on. She seen the dullness start to grab a hold of my eyes and my life. You know, I'd lose. I didn't even have no weight to lose, and lost it. You know, I was skin and bones. I was up at all hours of the night. She'd wait on me. I remember her waiting on me all the time, just waiting to see what I would look like when I come in, and I'd be high. You know, and she was a good person though. You know, wasn't too long after that I lost her. Once I lost her, I was pretty much on the streets. I refused to call my daddy because that would mean that he was right and I was wrong. I think about 2 months after my grandma had died, I ended up in a crazy house in Atlanta, then overdosed, and acted a fool out in public, and they didn't arrest me because I was 16, but they took me to some place in Atlanta. I still don't know the name of it to this day, but and left me up there for about a week. My daddy showed up up there, and he was like, he brought me some chicken nuggets from McDonald's in his jacket, and he said, why don't you just come back home? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. You know, I was all about it. I was gonna go back home, he's gonna take me home, he's gonna get me out. I was only in there 3 days before my mom was up there signing me out and taking me on my way. Which I'm pretty sure I told her to do. You know, I wasn't wanting no change. I wasn't going to live at his house and have rules after living however I wanted to, you know what I mean? And so later on, I went back to my mom's. After Grandma died, I was pretty much on the streets. I told y'all that. That's where I met my oldest kid's dad. He took me in, him and his dad, they took me in, and you know, they were their own kind of people too, their own type of people. There was no other woman in the house, so he taught me how to wash clothes, cook, kind of clean, and then that become my job to live there. That become my duty to live there. And if it wasn't done, it was a problem, you know. So it was kind of conditional love or conditional, you know. So Tanner was born. Tanner's my oldest. Tanner's 14. Tanner moved in with me Friday, y'all. More than that, but so yeah, so Tanner was born, and I realized from the scars and the fights and the drugs that it just wasn't gonna work. So I moved to Eatonton, moved to Millersville with my granny and papa, and they got me in church. I was doing good. I had a job. I was taking care of me and Tanner, and guess what? I met a dude. I met a boy. Yeah, I had to go do something, and it didn't take me long to lose the job, quit going to church, and just kind of give up on myself. You know, I went and lived with him and become a housewife again. Turns out I'm not that great at it. I get bored too easily, you know what I mean? So, so moved in with my second kid's dad. Trying to get out from under my granny and papa's roof, the rules that they had. The church they went to is the childhood church I grew up in. It was, I went there from the time I was able to fit in a 5-gallon bucket. I was a little old thing, and all the way up. So when I started coming in to that same church, I come in high, you know, and I wanted it. You know, I wanted God. I know God has been tugging at my heart my whole life. I know it because now that I have Him in it, I just know. You know, that's what's been pulling me out this whole time. Like, that ain't gonna work. When I got to the point where it was like, you know, so there was always a little curve at it. But so I started going to that church and I was high, you know, and man, they told me, they said, we don't know how to deal with people like you know? And I didn't know how to deal with people like me. So I get in fights and leave the guys and go back to Granny and Papa's. That was my landing ground every time something bad didn't go my way. It's really what it turned out to be. If they found out I was doing something I wasn't supposed to, or if they were doing something they weren't supposed to, you know, that ended up being my landing ground. And, you know, my sweet old grandma just let me on in. Eventually I had to start taking care of these are my daddy's parents. I ended up having to take care of them, you know. So I had lost the kids the first time to my dad. My dad was, he got the boys, and they were little. They were like 4 and 1, maybe. And I had gotten some trouble. I went to jail for battery, alcohol. You know, out of all the times I've done meth, I never got arrested for meth, thank God. No, that was something I never did get arrested for, but everything else under the sun, that was definitely in there for that. But you know, my dad got the boys for the first time. I remember him saying to me, you need to get some help. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Same old thing I said when I was 16 when I was ready. You know, I was ready. And he sent me on down to the Potter's house in Alma, Georgia. And I was there about long enough to learn how to put on makeup and dance and then go. It wasn't my speed. It was a great program. I remember what they taught a little bit about journaling and trying to keep up with this and that. And I got out and I tried to continue to do that, but that's not the life I was living yet. You know, that wasn't where I was at. And so, yeah, you know, John 10:10 says the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And he did. He come in and hit me like a wrecking ball. My daddy died while I was high, done run out the program, my daddy died. And my stepmom and them wouldn't let me come to the funeral because I was high. Couldn't see my kids during the funeral because I was high. And when I was high, I was not nice. I was mean. I blamed and it was just rough, And I'm so mean to my stepmom, like, about that funeral, like, he's gonna know you didn't let me come, but he also was gonna know I was high. So he would have been mad at me either way. Going back to my granny and papa's, I ended up going back to granny and papa's. I started Lake Country Baptist Church. The church my grandma and I grew up in, it didn't work. It didn't work for me. They didn't want me, I was different, and I was. And so I started Lake Country Baptist. When I got in there, I had both the kids. I got back from my stepmom, burned that bridge because, it was a horrible mess. And I remember going in there and I was broken. I was living at Granny and Papa's, and I had these two kids, and I was a mess. On the outside, I'd play like I was sober. I would play like I had it all together, but on the inside, I was completely broken. I was desperate. I was at rock bottom before I even knew I was at rock bottom, And I went in there and I sat down and I started CR there first. I started going on Thursdays and then ended up there for my church. But there's a pastor down there named Pastor Pete, and it's like a country church, So he's wearing camouflage when he comes see me sometimes, and he's a good guy, And the people there are just. They've supported me even up here in Warner Robin. I got half of them here with me tonight. They're my people. So I was at Lake Country Baptist. I told myself, I remember I was going to get off meth by drinking tequila. I told myself that numerous times. I feel like it's going to be fine. Turned out it wasn't. That was a bad idea. I ended up doing both, and there were so many things that I remember or don't remember doing. I think we were in my 12-step class last night, and we were talking about what is one of the worst things that you have done. And mine would be driving those kids in that car, drunk, ain't been to bed, mad, fighting with somebody, so I'm driving like 100, you know what I mean? So God kept us alive, kept whoever was around me alive, because it could have been so bad, and I think about that, think about the horrible mess I had my children in, and the guys after fight after fight after fight, I get drunk, and I used to blame it on the guys, but it turns out it was a lot my fault. Most of the time it was my fault, and anyways, I went to jail. My oldest boy went to live with his daddy, and I went to jail again for, this time they were going to keep me though, a little bit. Probably should have kept me longer, but I got in there and I was ashamed of myself. The person that pulled me over went to Lake Country Baptist Church. He was the officer there. It's not only did I get pulled over by someone that I went to church with, but I got pulled over by somebody that I knew was going to tell Miss Jane. Yeah. And, that was embarrassing for me. Miss Jane and Mr. Tony, they had continuously tried to, they were a little bit of sanity in a whole, chaotic world that I lived. I would go in on Thursdays, I would eat, I'd get a blue chip, I would get a blue chip, and then I would go out the door back to the chaotic world I come from. And they tried to love me. They tried to show me how to get a house. They tried to show me how to have a car, a steady job, and I just didn't know how. It's not only did I not know how, I just didn't have, I was never taught how to keep any of those things. They gave it to me, yes, they tried to help me, yes, but I never did let them know that where I had come from, you weren't taught that. You weren't taught how to keep any of those things. You bounced, you moved, it was never just consistent or steady, it was just rough. And but they tried to get me that. I think it took me 4 months to lose the house that they helped me and boys get. Tanner ended up moving to his dad's. I ended up moving with another guy. This guy, he also liked to drink. He lived right down the road from Miss Jane and them. And I took my kids over there, and whatever he said was the way it was going to be. And I didn't fight with him. I didn't fight with him about that. And I was so hateful to my children, his house, his rules, and my oldest kid, he went through his days. And I was high and drunk. And so we stayed there for a little while, me and Brayden, my 9-year-old. He was probably about 7 then. Me and Brayden stayed there for a little while, and then all that went crazy when I got arrested or whatever. And when I got in jail, he would be on the outside. You're gonna be okay. You can move back in. You can help me get sober. Now that you're sober, like 5 days in jail, was not gonna work. In my mind, it was gonna work, but it didn't work. Brayden ended up, my little boy, ended up going and staying with my cousin, who I had not talked to since I was 16, before I went to rehab. She's on my mama's side, and his dad or DFAS was gonna take him. I was sitting in jail and had to sign her over. Right, someone that I hadn't seen in a long time, someone that I did not know, but it had to be better than me. It had to be better than what I could give him. So I did. I signed over my rights to Brayden to Kristen. I did my little time in jail, and when it was time for me, I had some lady in there gave me Susie's number, y'all. Susie runs the Well Recovery Homes, and they gave me Susie's number, like, oh, call her. She'll come and get you right now, so you ain't got to stay in here. And I was like, okay, we'll try that. So I called Miss Susie, and she's like, yeah, I'll come and get you. We got a bed for you. It's gonna be great. I was in there for maybe another week, and I bailed out the moment that I got a bond. I was gone. It took me 2 days after being out. It took me 2 days to realize that I was not gonna be able to stay sober after 30 days in jail. So I drove drunk again to Miss Jane's house over there, and I asked her to take me to Miss Susie's. We called Miss Susie, we took us down there. So I'm running out of time. So long story short, after coming to the Well Recovery Homes, I was hard. Pastor Carey was talking about, I was very hard. I was uncertain about what was going on in my life, but I had finally had time to get sober and get my life right without having to do it with my kids, which is a really hard thing to do. I no longer fear for tomorrow because I know where I get all my strength. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, peace, and a sound mind. Today I teach. I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I am a sponsor. I teach 12 steps right here with these girls. I have all my little girls from the Well right there. I love these ladies. They don't know how much I lean on them, even though they lean towards me, You're a daughter. I'm a daughter. I am a daughter today. So I'm gonna read this real quick. So I have a sense of responsibility, by the way, and purpose. And that is something that I've never had. So the promise of God's word is that we will experience the fullness of His presence in our lives as we seek to know the Lord, love the Lord, and follow His word. We may be single, but not alone. We may be holy and separated for God's indwelling and use, but never have to be isolated from others or live without a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Today I'm trusted, I'm relied on. I'm a mother whose kids are proud of me, believe in me, and most of all, they know where I get my strength is through Jesus Christ. Chosen and worthy, and I'm the daughter of the one true King. I have a support team and so many people that I love and adore in my life. Mentors, friends, mothers, sisters, and 2 churches who have seen my whole mess but have still loved me and supported my journey, showed up when it matters. And I'm so grateful for my life today. It's beautiful. I had this thing I want to read to all women. So I was the girl who always felt replaceable, forgotten, left out, not chosen. But to my girls who have felt this, please hear me say, Jesus chose you, knowing every flaw, every mistake, every part of you that you think makes us hard to love. He chose you on your worst day. He chose you when you were doubting yourself. He chose you when people walked away. And He chose you when your heart was breaking in places nobody could see. Some of us spent our whole life begging to be picked up by people who couldn't even see our worth. While the King of Kings was already calling us His. You are not too much. You are not unwanted. You are not forgotten. And the cross is proof that heaven looked down and said, hey, she's worth dying for. Get to know Him. And one thing I've learned here the most is love God, love others, and share your story. You never know what light you're going to be at the end of someone's tunnel. Thank you for letting me share.